computerized maintenance management software, but it's not actually about the software. Maintenance management is really about people and process. It takes work to stay that intentional. Some people out there are going to hate this, but I seriously mean this. The only way to differentiate is to be better. We went into that business saying, well, we're just going to do what we say we're going to do, which everybody says they're going to do, but nobody does.
You literally just 30 seconds ago took advantage of that ability on this show.
The idea and the concept that no news is good news is total No news is a risk. If you're going to try to automate that process of follow-up and account management, client relationship management, that is not going to work. We have to maintain that, at least that connection.
Greg, it's good to see you, dude.
You too, Josh. It's been a while. I mean, I'm guessing at least a year. Could be longer than that. I'd have to go look, but man, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, man. We've collaborated on your podcast a couple of times now, but this is the first time you've been on mine.
Yeah, and I'm honored, man. I appreciate you inviting me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you, and I appreciate our conversations and what we've talked about over the years, and your mindset and the stance that you take, not only on the blue-collar skilled trades, but the industry as a whole, man. So I'm excited to take some of that wisdom, harness it, bottle it, give it to my audience, and see what they can walk away with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Let's jump into something. What do you want me to talk about?
I don't know. Let's take it from here. So first off, Greg, by the end of this conversation, what is it that you hope somebody takes away?
The number one thing would probably be, changes all the time, right? But generally, I want people to think a little bit more critically about what they're doing, especially if it has to do with maintenance management, how they're running their organization, those types of things. I kind of think of my content and the things I talk about being useful when it comes to inspiring critical thinking, and that includes disagreeing, which keeps us all moving forward, whether you realize it or not. So
yeah.
I want people to learn a little something and maybe go do some investigation into some of the concepts we discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that topic, man, tell us what your content is about. Tell us what you're about.
Well, so for CMMS Radio, that is about computerized maintenance management software, but it's not actually about the software as much as it is the two M's in the middle. And I like to say it that way because maintenance management is really about people and process. So having been in the space of CMMS, I was a co-owner, owned part of a company in the space. I spent a lot of time with people that are on the plant floors, on the shop floors, in the facilities, doing all the things, cleaning buildings, fixing assets, keeping lines running, all that different stuff, healthcare, schools, you name it. And even from my prior life being in building maintenance. So through that exposure, helping people solve problems, I just got deeper and deeper into what really matters when it comes to deploying the software based on how people work. So the content in CMMS Radio, on CMMS Radio, is all around maintenance management, anything related to it, the people, the process, and then the technology layered in there. And then I mix in a few things that are maybe a little bit random. I might have somebody that's not exactly in the space. I might have a founder on. I like peppering people up with real questions and tend to run with a low prep, no prep, grip it and rip it style. I don't do scripts. I don't like all that because I want someone to just bring their brain and let's have a nice conversation, because that's what people kind of need to hear. It's a little more real, a little more authentic. I'm not saying there's a way to be authentic. You either are or you aren't, I guess. But then you ask about like what I kind of stand for, and I think I'm really interested in integrity when it comes to how business is done. I love this pursuit of the elusive win-win, and I've been saying the elusive win-win for I don't know how many years. It's probably a couple of decades, because I've always loved this idea that in everything that you can do, if you can turn that corner, if you can keep that circle going, everybody wins. And that's not supposed to be like a movement or anything like that. That's just a good way to do business, be of service, because I think when you solve a problem for somebody, and you do something to get them to a different place, there has to be value for everybody. So that's not about selling stuff and then moving on. That's about delivering something and then supporting that process moving forward. So I kind of stand for that. And I also,
what makes it elusive?
Because there's challenges that come in to disrupt your intent around being that, doing that. And those challenges have to do with profits, they have to do with regulations, they have to do with boards of directors, they have to do with investors, they have to do with being beholden to the things that happen in our everyday lives. And it takes work to stay that intentional. And that's why it's elusive, because things will happen no matter what, no matter who, no matter where. Things are going to happen that screw up your process, right? Just bullshit happens, and that can take you away from that. At the end of the day, you got bills to pay, and you might then be compelled to cut some corners, to not come through here, to not come through there, because that gives you that extra 2% or whatever it might be. It's really hard to do the right thing, but then again, if you're intentional about it, it doesn't matter how hard it is, because you get better at it. So it's elusive in that regard. If I have a company that does this great service, whatever it is, product, service, both, and got great clients, they love it, everybody's happy, we interact, we're all going on this journey together, everybody's making money together, nobody's getting ripped off, it's all good, right? And then something happens, investment money comes in. Now we're at risk of that being disrupted because people are beholden to investors. And that's just how it is. I mean, I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way. I'm just saying it becomes more challenging.
Sure.
So it's elusive because people can get blinded by what they're doing and lose sight of what they were originally doing. That's the best I can do with that, I think.
Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to cut you off either. You can keep going.
Nah, man, you're totally good, man. I think I'm really passionate about it, and I think it's because it's so hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I like impossible things. I like ideals. Yeah.
All right, good. I'm sorry, man. No, that's great. So if I'm hearing you correctly, there's an underlying integrity issue here that makes this elusive, right? It's kind of like in pursuit of what is right, and and so that is what makes these win-win situations difficult, or makes them change, right? So where do you see that in a business model for somebody who's running, growing, or scaling a business? Like, how does this impact them and their decision making?
Wow, that's a deep question, because it can go in so many different ways. So in my experience, which certainly is, I don't think it's representative of everyone's experience, but I think some of those challenges I was talking about, where you become beholden to investors or the problem of the day, and it takes you away from your actual work, or maybe your actual work is so smooth you kind of get into this autopilot mode, and you're no longer kind of striving to grow and improve your organization or your clients' experiences. That's where it can start to go off the rails. So for a business that knows what it is and why it is, and they're moving forward that way, let's just pick an kind of easy and common one: growing pains. Growing pains come with cash flow issues. They come with training issues. They come with other types of disruption, such as the necessity to slow down for a moment to do the right things for onboarding somebody, putting in a new process, opening up a new market, or bringing in a new service into the fold. Maybe that's not for a new market, maybe it's for your existing market, but now you're going to start doing an extra service you haven't done before because that opportunity has presented itself. That's going to disrupt everything, and that's where the danger lies in the challenge of business growth. And I think industry by industry, it's different, right? So I'm generalizing in a big way. This is just it's kind of a fascinating topic, because we, you, me, and just numerous other people can call all these things out right? But then if we start to go nuanced, this specific business, or we'll go a little bit bigger, this industry, it starts to change a little bit. And so none of it's cookie cutter, but anything foundational that has to adjust, shift, change is going to disrupt your business, and it's going to make those goals, especially if one of them is to stay a high integrity organization, which a lot of people like the idea of it, but they don't like how it translates on the balance sheet.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, I don't even know if that really makes sense.
No, it does.
You would know. You've grown multiple businesses.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to ask another hard question here, and then we can move on to a different topic. But this is pure gold to me. I love this. What is one question that a business owner could ask themselves to keep them on the right path and focus on this win-win scenario in the event or in the situation which it gets muddy?
Are we adding value?
Yes. There it is. You just added value to this podcast.
I hope so.
That's great, man. I appreciate that. That's actionable advice. That's what I love to be able to deliver to the audience and the listeners, because this is real world stuff. You've been through it. I've been through it. They've been through it. And everybody is as generalized as that was, everybody knows what the hell you're talking about, right? Because they've been in those situations. Do we give the money back? Do we say something? Do we do this? Do we do that? You know what? And in the moment, it's not a clear answer. But when you ask yourself that question, it becomes clearer. And that's why I asked you for that.
Yeah, well, I think, what's interesting about the way you've just explained that, it could potentially, I believe it does apply to oneself, one's team, and the clients and the market. Now, it's not like, oh, you say it and now you're doing it. It takes work. It takes mindfulness. It takes, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it. I don't do all of that. That's a lot of stuff, right? But if you talk about how we could ask a question of ourselves, of our company, if you will, something like, are we adding value? Well, am I, as a leader, adding value to my team? Am I giving them the things that they need? For example, I bring great people in, but I don't give them the tools or the resources they need to accomplish what I hired them for. I have to make a regular practice of spending time with my team, going where they do their work. Don't call them into your office. Get out from behind your desk. Understand what's really going on. Now, some people out there are going to be like, bullshit, Greg, I got shit to do. We're making a bunch of money. This is a multi-million-dollar company and all that. Good. You're making great money. But if you can find a way to make that time and create some bandwidth for that, to figure out what your team needs in order to be absolute crushers on behalf of, not toward, but on behalf of your clients, that's a winning combination. That's a winning recipe. But there's always going to be, things that threaten that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but man, I'll get up on the soapbox, man.
No, it makes perfect sense, man. I love your position on the soapbox. Don't you worry about it. That's why I asked you to be on the show, man. No, that's great. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about CMMS, right? Computerized maintenance management systems, right?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Systems, software,
systems, software. Okay. So give me the elevator pitch as to what this actually is. We've got the maintenance management part of it, but for anybody who doesn't understand what CMMS actually is or does, or who it connects, can you give us that pitch?
Absolutely. So maintenance management software, whether it's on a computer or not, is as simple as work order management, and then that blossoms out or connects to all the different things that happen on a day-to-day basis. Each business is different, depends which industry we're talking about. But if you have work orders, work that has to be done on a thing, to a place, on behalf of customers, which could be your internal end users or your actual customers if you're a service provider, like you're going on site to a restaurant and you're going to fix that stove, or you're going to replace that hood system, or you're going to check the HVAC, you need a solution that allows you to capture those events, schedule those events, So you essentially can see, track, and manage past, present, and future, not crystal ball style, but future, what's coming down as far as our schedules, all those types of things. That's what a computerized maintenance management system does. It takes your old school, hey, Josh, can you go do this? And then let me know later how it turned out. You take that, now you put it on paper. Now you're putting it in some Access database or an Excel spreadsheet. Now you want to go next level and you get into an actual system that can take in, contextualize, and house that data as an accounting system for your maintenance processes, the things that you do. If it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. And then we can spin out from there and just go bonkers.
Yeah, of course. Right. So are you able to tell us what CMMS provider you were with, or is that confidential information?
So I'm not sure. I don't know that it's confidential. So the company that I was part owner of, I was not the founder. I was a co-founder. Big shout out to Sean. Rest in peace, my brother. So longtime friend of mine, business partner of mine as well, but we were friends first, business partners later. We started this company called Net Facilities, and it's still out there, but I'm no longer connected to it. But we built that solution to match you're cool if I spin into the whole story?
Go for it. Do it.
Yeah, so we built the solution based on all the different processes that we learned and developed when we had a building maintenance company, because we were working with so many different types of clients. And in that industry, which is very saturated, the only way to differentiate is to be better. So we went into that business saying, well, we're just going to do what we say we're going to do, which everybody says they're going to do, but nobody does.
So that was your way of being better.
That was our way of being better. And then we started to systematize that, move away from paper processes. We got a nice system in place that we were using to manage bidding, production rates, all those things that matter when you're providing services of any kind. You have a production rate of some kind, unless it's some product where you got cost plus pricing and you're doing that. That's different, right? But we took all that and we packaged it into a system, because the systems that were out there didn't do what we did from an account management perspective. So there's the work you do in building maintenance, in facilities maintenance, in facilities management, in property management, and blah, 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 just fill in the blanks, right? That has a workflow, but it's connected to some kind of an impact. So at the center of what we did, aside from the good work, was the incredible follow-up, the incredible level of accountability. So we built a system that did that, predicated on, based on work order management for job sites, property sites, locations. It could be one location or many locations. And then we had everything in there as far as who can interact, who can communicate, who can provide details, who can benefit from seeing the audit trails relative to who requested this, who requested that. And very quickly, we put assets in, so there was comprehensive equipment management. We had other factors. I won't get into all the different features and functions, because generally speaking, in the world of CMMS, you got work order management, asset and equipment management, and all the things that go along with that. You pack in whatever you want, leave out the crap that you don't need, whatever, right? So we grew that over about a 15-year period, and then we were sold. We were acquired in 2018, and good exit. It was successful.
Who were you acquired by?
If we check the wire, that would be out there, public sphere. So that would have been AMT Direct, was a company that acquired Net Facilities, and then it's their turn to pick up the ball and run with it. And I went along for the ride for a couple of years, and that's why I can't tell you much about it at this point. I don't see much about it, hear much about it, but I will tell you this. I do occasionally hear from old clients. I do stay in touch with a few people, and it was a really important part of the journey of life for me. I was very passionate about it. I was very intentional about it. I loved pretty much everything about it. I didn't care when I had to work. None of that. It was just go, 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 go. It's a pretty cool story, the way it all came to be. And the reason I always say shout out to Sean, rest in peace, Sean, is because, man, the guy, he was a workhorse, and he's a classic entrepreneurial story. Not that I'm not, but I see some differences there. But man, I learned a lot. I got to help a lot of incredible people. I got to learn an immense amount about industries that I thought I knew about, but then I got to really learn about them. And all of that shaped kind of where I'm at today. It's a major, really long chapter in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm super passionate about it. Like I don't really have any regret, although
That's
I didn't
great.
want to sell it.
That's a great story, man. And you know what? It's that journey and those rides that they shape us. So that it sold in 2018. You spent how many
Yep.
years still on board? 2, 3?
2. It was
Two.
it was about, yeah, as a matter of fact, it was damn close to exactly 2 years. It was like
Okay.
a couple days before the 2-year anniversary of the sale.
Okay.
That I did my I call it my corporate washout
There you
moment.
go. There you go. All right, cool. So then 2020-ish is when you stepped away, and then what? So what have you been doing since? What have you been pouring yourself into for the last 5 years?
So, first thing that happened was I went and dealt with some medical stuff. I had a major surgery I had to do, so I went and did that, and then started healing up from that thing. And I was starting to talk to people about things I could do, doing a little bit of consulting, looking at some of the companies out there. Oh, could I go here? Could I go there? And I was like, I don't know if I really want to, right? So then, while I was doing all that, I started working on another technology venture with Sean, but he wasn't directly involved. And we put a lot of work into that, but it didn't launch. It's right now it's sitting on a shelf. And if people look at my profile, they can figure out what that technology is.
Yeah.
It is just sitting right over there. I'm not actually looking at it, but pretend I am. And it's like I look at it and I go, one of these days, you're coming back. Because when Sean passed on, we stopped all operations and we were about to go to market. We were way past MVP. So what's interesting about that is while we were working on that, and I was learning it's a project management, project execution solution. Very, very well built, very clean, all this stuff. I had to go and actually immerse myself and learn enough about project management and project execution to be able to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk, but I never want to go too far to be a pretend expert. I want to lean on the real experts, and I don't like ever being in a position to misguide someone. So we were right there. Prior to us shutting that down and kind of putting it on the shelf for a while, I launched CMMS Radio as a podcast because my whole life had been told, hey, you should be doing something with your voice. You should be on the radio, whatever. So one day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to create something. I'm going to put a monologue out there. And I went and did it like December 25th or 26th, 2021. I'd have to go back and look, but that's approximately when I did it. And I put that monologue out. And then I was like, well, now you got to keep going. And so I did another one, and then I did another one, and then I did another one. So I think I did about 7 or 8 monologue episodes, while at the same time my days are filled with, doing some consulting, working on other things. And before that 8th episode, I started getting people contacting me. Hey, love the content, like the messaging. I'm interested in that stuff too. Do you happen to be, and they'd ask me, am I from this industry? Do I understand these best practices? And I was like, well, no. And they said, well, it sure sounds like you do. Could I come on your show? And I said, well, I haven't done that before. I was always going to just do monologue like some kind of radio guy that just hits the mic every night and records something cool, easy breezy, run and gun. And I said, all right, let's do it. And ever since then, I've only done guest episodes, video episodes. Rarely do I do a monologue anymore. And that's how CMMS Radio started picking up, audience and getting me connected to all these amazing industry pros. I mean, I have got literally a stable, and I mean that in the best possible way, a stable of heavy hitter, real deal pros in the industry, most especially in maintenance and reliability,
Yeah.
which was really, for me, eye opening because I had no idea I was going to land with that community. I thought I was going to land with a completely different industry series of, kind of like facilities managers only. And it ended up landing right smack dab in the middle of that. And now, if you look at my episodes, you look at some of the experts, some of the people that are dear friends of mine now in the industry that are just amazing, real, high integrity. And you mind if I shout out a few names right
Go
quick?
for it, man. Shout it out.
Brian Bieski, he's a CMRP. That's my dog, man. He was the very first one that reached out and said, "Hey, would you have somebody on as a guest? Because I like the shit you're saying, man, and we got to talk about this." So he gets credit for that because that's when I started doing the video episodes. I got friends like George Williams, Joe Anderson over at Reliability X, Corey Dickens, he's a CMRP. The Trent McJunkin, I got to give a shout out to him. All these people, I could probably go 50 deep, but the core stable of just monsters, it's probably a good 10, maybe 15 people that are complete beasts. Andy Gager with AMG International. I'm buddies with Eric Houpier over in Australia. These are monsters that come through. They deliver on what they say. They know what they're doing. They are real pros. They have been in the trenches. I'm talking about bona fide maintenance and reliability and asset management experts.
Awesome.
Monsters.
Awesome.
Love those people. And everybody else that follows, chimes in, contributes. I get to learn. I get to showcase what you can teach people. And that's my job. That's my job. I'm not supposed to be the expert. I'm supposed to be the expert at facilitating.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a really good lead in to my next question. So I want to get a little more into the CMMS stuff, but before that, I'm listening to your story. I'm listening to you speak. Obviously, we've known each other for a while now, and I've gotten to know your personality, which resonates heavily with me. I love you to death, man. Some of the conversations that we've had, although brief, have been impactful, and really, really awesome stuff. But so my next question for you is, Greg, what is your ultimate superpower? Not necessarily your expertise, right? But your superpower, that thing that, maybe you're not an expert at, but people are always like, Greg, you got it. You got this. Like, what is that? I want to know.
Interesting question because I have to think really hard. I have a very difficult time objectifying myself, figuring out like what I could say about myself that's true.
Uh-huh. That's why I asked the question.
I think I would probably go with my connecting and kind of, I like to sit in the middle and make things happen, but I also like to wrestle with things and try to put stuff together in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a superpower type deal though.
I think it is. I think they're two separate things, right? I've known people who have had superpowers of connecting others, right? Networkers, people that say, "Hey, I know somebody who could help you," right? In the effort of service, right? And that is something that I've noticed from you, right? And because you do have this show, you just shouted out, three names, and you've got 10 more in your back pocket there. You literally just 30 seconds ago took advantage of that ability on this show. So that's number one. I think that's really great. And the second thing, that just comes through in your journey, right? That's who else would want to build what you built, right? If they couldn't grapple with that in their mind, so that checks out, man.
Well, thanks. I think I almost like not knowing what it is because if I do, then I want to try to do something with it. But I do tend to think it's the way I interact, the way I talk, the way I'm not quite super polished professional, not quite completely like out of control, something like that.
Man of the people.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I have a real tough time taking like the compliments and the feedback, man. I still remember, I don't know if I ever told you this story. I still remember the very first time somebody came up to me at an event when I decided, okay, I'm going to go to an event. This great group invited me to their event. They're called Reliable Plants, coming up in June. And they invited me to their Orlando show. And one of my heavy hitter buddies now, really good friend, man, and such high integrity. His name's Matt Knuth. And he walked up to me to introduce himself. And right there, I was shocked. Like, he called me by name and came up to me. Then I asked him, I'm like, wow, man, this is, I mean, I don't know what to say, but dude, I just got to ask you, why do you like the show? I mean, why do you even like it? And he said, dude, you're not a fucking talking head. And that has been consistent amongst the people that kind of follow and participate and all that. I always remember that. So, yeah, I don't know about that superpower thing. I'm gonna have to ask all my friends, what the hell is my superpower?
No, that's really great. So I want to get in a little bit to the CMMS side of things, just for an understanding perspective. Obviously, it's something that I use in my business, right? And I don't want to say it's forced upon me. Now it's mutual. When it first came down the pipeline, I was like, "What the hell is this?" We've had that conversation, and I think that every anybody who services facilities in that aspect, when these CMMS providers started to come up, they probably all had the same questions and fears and anxieties. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what I want to do is I want to equalize the playing field a little bit, and I want to try to drive understanding. And what I mean by that is that it's real easy for us as service providers and skilled trades professionals and repair people to say, man, it makes my job so much harder. It makes it so much more difficult because now I got to do everything twice, and maybe my system doesn't link up to it, and it causes more admin headaches because I have to do all this entering, and then it needs to be reviewed by somebody because that's their process, and I have no control over that. Tell me some of the stuff. Tell me some of the struggles that maybe my customer might have that put them in a position to want to use a CMMS provider.
The number one thing is a lack of documentation and opportunity to communicate in real time. Now, I have to add something to that. Real-time communication is a challenge because when you call someone, when you text someone, when you send them an email, or you use your CMMS and put in a work order, that doesn't mean you're going to get lickety-split instant communication. However, if you're having a lot of gaps with as one of your customers using a CMMS with the communication and what did I ask WCE for yesterday or whomever, that serves a purpose. Now, that's really basic, but the important thing about leveraging a CMMS is that I mentioned see, track, and manage the things, what's being done, who requested it, who worked on it, who didn't work on it, how long is it outstanding. All those things matter. You cannot keep those in your brain. They are worthless if they're sitting in your email because let 6 months or a year go by and then go try to find it. Well, you would have to remember something about it that's so distinct that you could pull that shit up, and that ain't going to happen. Plus, I will tell you, email is a brilliant way to self-train on how to use a snooze button. So the CMMS for your customers is going to give them a way to communicate, document, send in a request. That thereby empowers their vendor, their service provider, whatever it might be, to take that and go do the work and then document what was done. They might tell you what it costs them, how much they're going to bill you, and then we go a step further and we get into equipment. You mentioned restaurants, right? Mm-hmm. Big mainstay thing for a lot of businesses. Well, restaurants have critical pieces of equipment for both the facilities, right? HVAC systems, maybe boilers, a few other things like that, and for what they actually do. Clients come to get food. Got to have good equipment to not only produce that food, but produce it consistently at the right temperatures. So a CMMS is going to help those types of clients to empower their vendors to be better vendors, but for them also to see, what do I have? When did I buy it? What's been done to it? How often did it break? When should something be done next? And the example I'm going to use in the restaurant industry specifically is either hood systems or grease traps. The reason I'm bringing up those two things is those cost money. Those are a part of day-to-day operations in those environments, absolutely. But they are also a major risk point in the business. Grease traps that are not taken care of create a hazard. Hood systems that are not taken care of properly and maintained create a hazard, a very dangerous hazard. So we can start to do this with all the different things, and some people might say, Greg, you're getting too detailed. You don't have to go that detailed. Hit the big rocks, right? So hopefully that helps. I mean,
it does.
What happens is when somebody asks me a CMMS question, and I don't care which product, I don't care what CMMS you use, right? My mind is going on a journey as if I pulled my car into the parking lot, got out of my car, walked into the place, whether it's a restaurant or a school or a hospital, I don't care. And I'm actually seeing in my mind all the things, if I were going to walk that facility and figure out a production rate on how to take care of it, maintain it, keep the equipment running and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm at the same time seeing it inside the CMMS. That's an actual thing that happens for me.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's I appreciate that that answer. That I think that's helpful to gain perspective. Because it's so easy to lose it, right? I think there's an underlying, I'll call it a fear, that CMMS platforms can take the relationship factor away from the interaction. Make it transactional. Because, at that point, you're behind a screen, behind a keyboard. You can communicate without this. What would you say to that?
So, some people out there are going to hate this, but I seriously mean this, all right?
Yeah.
You can have your CMMS. You can do transactional nature things with your clientele, internal, external clients, whatever you want to call them. Work orders, all this cool stuff, reports, communicating KPIs, dashboards, all that nice stuff, invoices, blah, blah, blah. You still should, must, and need to talk to your clients. Now, it doesn't have to be every day, but the idea and the concept that no news is good news is total bullshit. No news is a risk. And when you call your client to check on something and do that step of verification, you bring back immediately the human element. You move immediately away from the transactional nature of everything that we already do. You've hired me for a service. I've done the service. Where's my money? Have a nice day, right? But you've got to keep that in there, because if you're going to try to automate that process of follow-up and account management, client relationship management, that shit is not going to work. It's not going to work at some point. That is not going to work. We have to maintain that, at least that connection. I would add to that now, this is not easy for all businesses. Only certain businesses really can do this. But the occasional on-site has a value that's actually intangible in many ways. When you have a client and you're in a position, right? It depends. If you're selling some $22 thing online and all, you're not going to go to your client's house and all that shit, right?
Sure.
But I'm talking about your actual clients. If you are going to make an occasional visit, not just that phone call, but hey, we do happen to be in the area this week. Can we come by just to say hello and shake your hand? Everything changes, because you get to see for yourself. You get to look somebody in the eyes. And I know I've worked remote. I can't even tell you how many years of my life. And when I want to interact with a client, it's like this, right? I'm not going on site to every different place. But if you're in that kind of a business, you should be doing that. If you can't do that, or if it's cost prohibitive, you still got to do the phone calls and all that. I'm not talking about cold calls. I'm talking about checking in with your client. And when you do that and you leave a message for Mr. or Mrs. Jones, if you're in the customer success department or the account management department, you're not done yet.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. This shit gets me in trouble all the time. I'll tell leaders, don't let people just check the boxes off.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they called and they left a message. Keep trying. You don't have to do it 24/7, but for each one of your clients, they represent something that's part of the lifeblood of your company. What you're doing for them probably represents some part of the lifeblood for their company. That kind of stuff matters. If you have pure transactional opportunity and it can live and thrive that way, that's fine. But in service businesses, that's not a thing.
Well, I appreciate that candid response, as if you'd give me anything else.
Yeah.
You said you tell leaders this. Is that part of your consulting, coaching, just regular advice?
No. I would say regular instigating.
Okay. All right.
Regular instigating. So I don't consult with leaders necessarily.
Okay.
Like I just say this stuff because it needs to be said.
Got it.
Like I step up so that I can get like fired or whatever. Walked out of the building. That's what I'm talking about.
Hell yeah.
But and I think, well, I mean, I can't get away from it. I've tried to play the game and do the soft skills and all that, and it's really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard for me, and I don't. Maybe that's a flaw. Let's just say that's a flaw, but it can also be a good thing in certain ways. So, I don't like playing the game very much because if I have to play it that much, that means there's something wrong where I am.
Sure.
If that makes any sense. So when I do consulting, it's consulting around computerized maintenance management software, facilities management challenges, maintenance management challenges.
Logistics.
And one thing that well, maybe with the logistics, but maybe with how they're structuring workflows, what might be missing from their process or processes. And I just want to give some good general guidance and help them solve a problem, maybe find a problem, or maybe we can find out you don't really have much of a problem. And the other thing is, you remember I mentioned the people that I have that I can reach out to and pull into these things. As soon as it gets out of my realm where I'm like, I need to try to figure this out, that's when I'm typically phoning a friend. And then if I can figure out that they can actually solve the problem, then I'll put those people together. So I don't do like leadership training or stuff like that because I think there's people that are really good at that, and I don't think that's my thing. I think my
Fair
thing
enough.
is getting into the mix, seeing if I can hear something or get a clue about something that I know enough about that we could solve it or find a good solution. And that thing about instigating, I love a good rant. I love a little bit of,
I know this about you.
Yeah, and I think most of the time it falls on deaf ears. So the other stuff I do is occasionally a little bit of voice work or something like that.
Okay.
But I'm not out on any platforms doing all that kind of grind. I just do like little projects, maybe
Okay.
some videos and stuff like that. But I'm pretty knee deep in CMMS Radio, getting to a few conferences, doing some good promotion for people, and getting great stories that are real as real can be.
Love that. Greg, how big did Net Facilities get before it was sold?
That one I don't think I'm allowed to talk about, but
Like, I mean, just give me something like an employee count or, something that gives us an idea
okay.
of like the size business you were.
okay. All right. So, hundreds upon hundreds of clients,
Okay.
thousands upon thousands of locations,
Okay.
total number of users in my time, 40, 50,000.
Wow. Okay.
All users, right? Counting them all. And then from an employee perspective, this is the most interesting thing about what we did for me. We built a very high retention CMMS company. We're almost always in the high 90s as far as percent of
Wow.
retention. 100 is really hard to do.
Yeah.
Really, really hard to do. But we were it was important to us that we could stay in the mid to high 90s on retention. But here's the kicker. This is what I was always so fascinated by. We did all of this with what I think is an incredibly small team because of the way we structured everything and the way we allowed people to do their job. So in the front office for us, prior to being sold, I'm positive we were never more than 12 and usually around 10 in the front office.
Okay.
Because we would push resources to what we call back office operations for ongoing like development programming stuff. When people hear I was in CMMS and all this, they're like, oh, do you know how to build this, that, and the other? And do you know about Ajax and Python and all that? I'm like, no, man, I'm a button clicker, dude. There's people that know that stuff a million times better than I ever could. So don't even go there with me. But what we focused on, and the reason this was possible, was we were very focused on how a lot of people call it customer success. We didn't use that. We didn't call it. We had a support and training department, one and the same. Deployments and implementation, same. We were more so plugged in with our clients than the way it happens when you have multiple departments and turnover and all that. We didn't want turnover. We wanted people that would stick for a long, long time, but not because they're stuck, because they're thriving in their job and they love working with our clients and they love solving the problems and they love doing all the stuff. So I don't know if that tells you anything about size, because I don't think I'm allowed to. I've never really checked this. I don't want to go pull up my non-compete. It's so damn long ago. But like revenue, what we sold it for, those two I know I'm not allowed to talk about.
No, don't even sweat it. No, you gave me a good idea. And that retention rate is wild. So if you could roll that retention piece into a short piece of advice for somebody, like the one thing or the three things that they can focus on to, from your perspective, to increase retention in their team, what would that look like?
Man, it's. You remember I said earlier about is what I'm doing is what we're doing, adding value.
Yeah.
What you do is you take that, you couple it with the intentionality, and you have to actually be relentless about it. As an organization, it's going to cost you money and time to do that. But all you're doing is caring, actually caring. And that's the thing that can very quickly and easily get eroded when we're moving really fast and we're growing exponentially. It's all great. It's all exciting. But when more and more of what we do is happening, we need more and more resources to deliver at that same level. And that puts white glove service and caring at risk naturally. Like if you're suffering this, if you're a company out there and you're suffering this, that is kind of how it's supposed to happen. And if you're growing and stacking on clients and bringing in revenue and you still have that high retention and you can maintain that intentionality about adding value and actually caring about your clients, you're doing great. You're probably dodging some bullets along the way because there are actually a ton of them. You see them far better after the fact. When you look back, you don't necessarily see them while they're happening in real time. I'm talking about these bullets that come up. So think about a software company. There's so many things that can go wrong any minute of every day. System can go down, data integrity, on and on and on, all of it, right? So we're all out here, big companies, small companies, everybody in between, basically dodging bullets. And if somebody thinks you're going to create this perfect system that's just going to be a set it and forget it organization that's going to run itself, get out of here. That's nonsense. That's not a thing. It's just not a thing. You know what works like that? If your CD player works and you actually still use CDs and you plug it into the CD machine and it just plays. That works like that. But companies just don't work that way, man.
The Gen Zs listening are going to be wondering what the hell you're talking about.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm
joking.
Just set it and
Google
forget it is just not a thing.
ChatGPT it.
Well, they know what it is because they use it against us. They make fun of us. Yeah, go listen to some of your CDs, man. You probably still got a DVD player.
Oh, that's funny, man. No, I appreciate that advice. That's really good advice. So I got to ask.
I know.
Yo, go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say, I know I didn't really like package it up as like a canned response, but when I'm in these conversations with you, Josh, I'm just like, man, I like having conversations that are like nobody's listening.
Yeah.
Just chopping it up, man.
And don't worry about that. I mean, leave the packaging to me. You know, I'll package these clips as necessary. You just be you, 100% authentically you, which you do a great job of. So what haven't I asked that can impact our audience? Do you think that that they took away what you wanted them to take away from this conversation yet?
Well, I think they might have gotten some of it, but things I would add to it is with anything that you're dealing with, especially if it's in the maintenance management realm, facilities management, you're providing services, you're receiving services, you're using software. Maybe you're going to look at a CMMS or an EAM, which is enterprise asset management, and all this different stuff. Always know that it's about the basics, the basic fundamentals. And when it comes to the resources you're going to leverage for learning out there, that's not going to be a real easy thing. I could tell you, hey, listen to CMMS Radio if you want the real deal and you want to see some heavy hitters that are actually going to help you. Sure, but that's not the point. The point is whatever you're doing in any business, maybe even in life. I'm not a life coach, man. They would never certify me on that. The thing you have to focus on is these basics, because those are the things that set the foundation of what you do. You've heard this your whole life. You've heard this in work and in business and whatever, but it's actually a thing. So be careful of the shiny stuff, the shiny new technology, the buzzword stuff, your AI. I much prefer actual intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. However, caveat on that, there's some good stuff about it, some of which is yet to be seen. There's going to be a washout, but focus on your basics. And always, when you're working with a vendor of any kind, buying a CMMS, getting services for your restaurant equipment, getting a plumber for your house, whatever it might be, put them to the test. What I mean is ask them questions that are important to you. Make sure they understand you. That's what matters. It's not the other way around, ever. And for this time in this moment, I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, check out CMMS Radio too.
That's fantastic, man. I truly appreciate that advice. And I know that that's going to go along with my audience too, man.
I hope so. I just want to help one person at a time. That's the reality.
Yeah. Well, that's where you and I are aligned, my friend. One listener or a million, you know, as long as somebody can get some value.
Add value, man. That's the name of the game. Add value and be real about it.
Absolutely. Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn, you can find CMMS Radio. Follow that company page. CMMS Radio is on Spotify, and it ends up getting out via RSS to a bunch of other places. There's a YouTube channel. You can check that out, too. And you can find me on LinkedIn. And there is CMMSradio.com, but I'm really heavily focused right now just on LinkedIn.
Cool. All right. Well, Greg, it's always a pleasure, man. I truly appreciate the conversation.
Thanks,
I appreciate the transparency. And until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Blue is the New White podcast. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes. For more, please follow at Josh Zolan on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Or visit us at blueisthenewwhite.com, where we create success, not debt, and build blue-collar heroes.